is Breakfast Clubber, and you're watching Games of Philosophy. This is part 3 of a series where I discuss my perspective on various topics. Be sure to stick around to the end of the video where I'll let you know what we'll be talking about next week. Now, if you're anything like me, you were probably taught as a child that death is something to be feared and something to be put off as long as possible. But why? Well, there are a lot of different views on the subject, and we'll look at a few of those today. But this has always somewhat perplexed me, and a person will tell you they fear death, but that same person may also tell you that, when they die, they get to join some awesome gated community replete with gold paved roads and never ending entertainment in the form of humans on Earth making fools of themselves. So, I don't know. Or a person may tell you that death is just the end and the body rots away and the mind, the consciousness it contained, are just gone. Yet this person would likely also tell you that they fear death, at least to some degree. Some would argue that fear of death is really just a misnomer for fear of the unknown, as none of us really know for sure what's going to happen after we die. Well, let's take a look at the religious camp first. Regardless of what a person's religious beliefs may be, it's generally accepted among the various religious communities that life doesn't end with death, and there is some form of spiritual life or afterlife that continues after our physical forms have gone kaput. So usually this seems to take the form of some kind of eternal punishment or reward system, depending on how you live your life here on Earth. Details can vary pretty dramatically. Just scratching the surface, some religions preach one all-encompassing reward for the good, and one similar one-size-fits-all approach for the punishments of the wicked. Others have their afterlives more segregated, with various levels of reward and punishments based on specific virtues or, vices. Still others say that everyone goes to the same place, mainly just a rest between incarnations. On the other end of the spectrum, we have those who believe that death is the absolute end of a person's existence. The problem I see with this, despite being a widely held view among the scientific community, is that, well, it doesn't seem to factor in things like, the first law of thermodynamics or the law of the conservation of energy, which states energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred or changed from one form to another. Now, the wording I found varied greatly on this, but it all seemed to follow this general theme here, so this is the basic gist of it. So it seems to me the energy that is our soul or consciousness can't just stop or cease to be. According to the laws that govern our universe, it's just not possible. Now, that collection of memories, perceptions, and feelings that collectively make up who we are may go away, may not, I don't know. But my point here, I guess, is that something remains. Anyone who's ever studied meditation could probably gladly tell you about the interconnectedness of the universe and all the matter and energy contained therein, so I won't go too much into that today. Look it up though, it's fascinating stuff. But the one thing I will touch on that's related to that is that even after we're gone, we live on in some form in every atom of every molecule, of every cell, of every living thing, on every tiny little sphere and every tiny little galaxy in our unimaginably vast universe. So, again, why fear death? Seems like a glorious and wonderful thing, right? Sure as hell does to me. Oh, right, hell. You see, we've come again to those pesky punishments mentioned in so many holy books. That could be a scary thing, I suppose, especially if you've done a lot of things in your life you're not proud of. I know I have. I mean, some of those places are just downright nasty. The silver lining of this painful punishment cloud is that most faiths also include some form of penance so that you can atone for all the bad crap that tends to result from us being imperfect humans. Now I'll break down my thoughts on the religious debate another time, but for the purposes of this video, I think there are a lot of good things about all the religions, and I love learning about the similarities and differences between them. But religions were created by imperfect humans trying to explain things beyond their comprehension, and are thus prone to our mistakes in both comprehension for the original writers and translations for those who found the works later on. So I don't really think any religion is 100% right or wrong. But either way, being told what to believe is not really my thing, so I tend to do my spiritual learning away from churches and other such institutions. So now that I've gone completely off on a tangent, let me swing back around to death. I guess my advice on the matter would be this: if you live a good life, don't be so afraid of something beautiful and natural. Try to keep in mind that it's not just the end of one thing, but also the beginning of another. And if you're not living what you consider to be a good life, maybe start looking into why that is and how you can turn it around so you don't have to be afraid of meeting your end. Well, folks, that about wraps it up for today. But before we go, let's do this week's quote of the week. And this one comes from this one comes to us from my mom, actually. So mom comments, "Sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes the bear eats you." Mom, this is just silly, and I love it. Remember, if you have a quote that you'd like to see featured in Remember, if you have a quote that you'd like to see featured in an upcoming episode, throw it down in the comments section below, and while you're down there, why don't you hit that big red subscribe button as well. It really does help out the channel, folks, not with getting paid or anything, but just for upgrading features of the channel. For example, the current goal is 100 subscribers, at which point I can get a custom link for my channel to help you make it easier for you to remember and help you find my channel. Plus, if you hit the bell notification icon down there, you can also receive an alert every time I publish a video. So thank you so much for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed this video, maybe even got something out of it. And I'll see you next week right here on Games and Philosophy.